Can you believe it? A quiet gas station, nestled on a dusty Missouri road, where the air hums with cicadas and the sun drenches everything in a warm golden glow. That's where it all ignited. On one of those endless late summer afternoons, heavy with heat and anticipation, a smug deputy thought he could bully a black woman who was just going about her day. Oh, how he misjudged her. She wasn't just anyone, no way. She was Camila Brooks, the FBI's Midwestern Division chief, a powerhouse hiding in plain sight, dressed in jeans, a gray jacket, and dark sunglasses. In less than 3 minutes, his world was about to crumble like a house of cards. This isn't just a story about a rotten cop, folks. It's a heart-pounding epic of a broken system and one woman's fearless battle to dismantle it with every ounce of her strength. What happened next? A firestorm of truth, power, and justice that began with a single brutal kick and roared into a federal takedown that shook the nation to its core. Picture this: the sun hovering just above the treeline, casting a rich, golden hue over the faded rooftops of a sleepy Missouri town. Camila had been driving for hours, winding through sprawling farmland, tiny crossroads villages, and silent stretches of pine trees, so still you could almost hear your own thoughts bouncing back. She didn't look like a VIP, no flashy suit, no gleaming badge, just a weary woman in her early 50s, exuding a quiet confidence that made you do a double-take. To anyone passing by, she was just another traveler pulling over for gas before the final stretch home. But, oh, what a secret she held. Only a select few in Washington knew the truth. Camila was the woman who'd cracked a dozen national cases, smashed drug rings from Chicago to the Gulf, and faced down governors in high-stakes war rooms. Can you imagine? All she wanted that day was a full tank, maybe a cold soda to cut through the sticky heat, and to reach home before the sunset painted the sky in fiery hues. She guided her black SUV into the cracked lot of an old gas station off Route 24, the kind of place where time seemed to have thrown in the towel. Peeling paint flaked off the signs, soda machines slanted precariously to the left, and the air carried a faint tang of grease and pine. A rusted pickup lounged in the far corner, windows half down, country music buzzing like a drowsy bee, but the lot was otherwise deserted. Camila stepped out, stretched her road-weary back, and popped the gas cap with a quick flick. The pump hummed as it began to fill, and she let herself savor the moment's calm. But then, crunch! The sharp grind of gravel under tires shattered the silence. A Benton County Sheriff's cruiser rolled in, slow and ominous, its tires crackling like dry bones. Did she flinch? Not a chance. Camila knew that sound, had heard it in every county from Kansas to Kentucky, and she stood firm, unshaken. The cruiser's door creaked open, and out stepped a heavy-set deputy, tall with thick arms, a buzz cut, and boots so filthy they hadn't seen a shine since winter. Deputy Kyle Riker, his name was, and trouble clung to him like a bad smell. A white cop, a black woman, a dusty road. What was brewing here? You could feel the tension coiling, thick as a storm cloud. Camila sensed it before he even opened his mouth, her instincts razor-sharp from years in the field. "You lost, ma'am." His voice scraped like gravel, not a hint of warmth or a smile. Camila turned slowly, deliberately, her hands visible, her composure like a still lake. "Just getting gas," she said, her tone friendly but solid, a perfect blend of calm and steel. He eyed her up and down, his gaze dripping with suspicion, as if she'd stolen the very SUV she stood beside. "Let me see your ID," he demanded, stepping closer. She held his stare, unflinching. "May I ask what the issue is, deputy?" she countered, her voice steady as granite. "The issue," he sneered, closing the distance, "is that I don't see a license plate from around here, and folks driving shiny black SUVs don't usually stop at this gas station." Camila didn't budge, her calm a fortress against his aggression. Slowly, she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out her driver's license. Not her FBI badge, oh no, not yet. "Here you go," she said, offering it with measured grace. He snatched it from her hand like it was an insult, reading her name aloud like a threat, Camila Brooks. "Ha!" His eyes narrowed, his voice laced with venom. "What are you really doing in Benton?" The way he spat her name, it was like a curse, as if she had no right to breathe his town's air. Did she waver? Not for a second. "Like I said, getting gas," she replied, her tone unwavering. "Is there something else you need?" That was it, the line in the sand, the moment where the air crackled with danger. Riker stepped even closer, his chest puffed out, his badge grazing her space. "You got an attitude, Miss Brooks," he growled. "I don't like that." And then, without warning, bam. He shoved her hard, his shoulder slamming into her chest, knocking her back against the SUV. "Hey!" Camila's voice sliced through the air, sharp and commanding, as she caught herself on the edge of the door. "That is not necessary." But Riker wasn't done, not by a long shot. He leaned into the open passenger door, rifling through her glove box like he owned it, tossing aside receipts, sunglasses, even a half-empty protein bar with a sneer. Camila's pulse raced, her heart pounding like a war drum, but she held still, her training kicking in. Survive first, respond later. "My registration's in there," she said, her voice steady, trying to cool the volcano ready to erupt. "Top folder." He found it, crumpling it in his fist, and turned on her with a look that could burn through steel. Then how could he dare? He raised one heavy boot and before she could react, kicked her hard in the shin. Crack. The sound echoed across the lot like a gunshot. Camila collapsed with a gasp, gravel tearing through her jeans, her knee screaming as it hit the ground. The pump clanked behind her, fuel dripping like tears. Riker towered over her, his smirk vile, like he'd just crushed a bug. "That's where you belong," he spat, his eyes narrow slits of contempt. "Stay down." And just like that he turned as if it was nothing, as if he'd done no wrong, and strutted back to his cruiser. But Camila Brooks? She doesn't stay down. Gritting her teeth, she pressed her palm into the jagged gravel, forcing herself upright, slow and defiant, every movement a rebellion against his cruelty. Her knee burned like fire, her shin swelling beneath the torn denim, blood seeping through, but her face? Stone cold, not a flicker of pain betrayed her strength. Across the lot, a teenage boy, barely 17, froze mid-task, his hands trembling as he stacked crates outside the gas station. His phone, held low, captured it all, the lens shaky but clear, recording a truth that would soon shake the world. Did Riker notice? Did he care? He climbed into his cruiser, slammed the door, and revved the engine, spitting gravel as he peeled out, dust clouds swirling like his arrogance. Camila stood alone, her breath shallow, her heart hammering, her ID lying discarded in the dirt. She bent down, fingers trembling just a touch, and brushed it off, reclaiming her dignity. Her phone buzzed in her jacket, and one glance at the screen shifted everything. Caller ID, Olsen, Director Ops, secure. She answered, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet, unshaken despite the pain. "This is Brooks. Cam, are you all right?" The voice on the other end was sharp with worry. "We've got a flag. Bodycam footage just popped a geofence alert. Something happened in Benton." Did she hesitate? Not for a moment. "Deputy assaulted me, kicked me," she said, her words precise, cutting. "It's on a civilian's phone. I want Riker's full file, complaints, disciplinary record, partner list, now." A pause, then a quiet, on it. She hung up, slid her phone back into her pocket, and, "Can you believe it?" smiled. Not a smile of amusement, oh no, but the smile of a woman who knew she was about to unleash a hurricane. Behind her, the teenager's phone was still recording, his hand steadier now as he stepped closer, unsure but brave. This wasn't just a video anymore, it was evidence, a weapon in the fight for justice. Camila met his gaze, her eyes calm yet piercing, a silent promise of change. "Send that footage to the news," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of a command. "To everyone." The kid blinked, nodded, his resolve hardening. She turned back to her SUV, limping the last few steps, her hands scraped raw, her knee screaming with every move. The heat shimmered off the pavement in waves, but inside her? A fire blazed, unstoppable, because Kyle Riker had made a fatal mistake. He thought he'd roughed up some nobody passing through. Oh, how wrong he was. He'd kicked the FBI chief, and she was about to kick back, hard. 3 minutes. That's all it took, just 3 minutes for that boot to strike her shin and set the gears of a mighty machine in motion. Camila didn't drive off right away. She stood there, one hand braced against her SUV, the other gently massaging her throbbing leg. The pain was sharp, pulsing like a heartbeat, but the insult? That cut deeper, a wound to her very soul. She was no stranger to hate, she'd faced it, fought it, outlasted it, but the casual cruelty of it, the way he kicked her like she was less than human, like she was nothing? That clung to her, a bitter sting. How could someone be so heartless? How could he think he'd get away with it? The teenager approached, his thin frame trembling, his wide eyes reflecting both fear and awe. He held out his phone like it was a sacred offering. "I got the whole thing," he said, his voice cracking. I didn't know what else to do. Camila took a deep breath, looked him straight in the eyes, and gave him a nod that spoke volumes. Courage, gratitude, solidarity. "You did good," she told him, her voice warm yet firm. "Make sure it goes everywhere." She slid behind the wheel of her SUV, the leather seat hot against her back, her mind already shifting into command mode. This wasn't personal anymore, no, it was professional, and that made it deadly for him. She pulled her phone from her pocket, her fingers steady despite the pain, and dialed a contact she reserved for only the gravest moments. Marcus Ellington, Deputy Director of Intelligence Coordination. The call connected on the second ring. "Come." His voice was tight with concern. "We got pings. You okay?" "Not even close," she shot back, her tone fierce. "Pull everything on a Deputy Kyle Riker, Benton County. I want every complaint, every speck of dirt swept under the rug. Civilian recordings just went online. This one's going to burn." "Copy that," he replied without missing a beat. "What happened?" "He kicked me," she said, her words like a blade. "In broad daylight at a gas station. Thought I was just some black woman passing through." Silence hung on the line for a heartbeat, then Marcus's voice, low and resolute, "He's done." Camila hung up, no need for more words. Outside, the teenager was already uploading the video, his fingers flying over the screen. That footage? It was about to explode across the internet. Her face, his boot, that smug look on his face, all of it laid bare for the world to see. By the time it hit Twitter, it wouldn't matter who she was, but soon, oh soon they'd know. She reached down to rub her knee, wincing slightly, then unzipped the small side pouch of her bag. There it was, her badge, FBI Chief, Midwestern Division, gleaming in the fading light like it had a voice of its own. Why hadn't she flashed it earlier? Not because she was hiding, but because she wanted to see how far he'd go, how deep his prejudice ran. And now she knew, too far, way too far. The tank beeped, full at last. She replaced the nozzle, twisted the gas cap shut, and paused, letting the moment settle. A breeze swept through the lot, stirring dust and the sharp scent of gasoline. In the distance, a siren wailed, faint but growing louder. Were they coming for her? Not yet, but soon, because the internet would demand it. She pulled onto the highway, slow and deliberate, the SUV gliding over the gravel. Her knee ached with every press of the gas pedal, but she welcomed the pain. It kept her sharp, grounded. 20 miles down the road, she pulled into a diner, its red paint peeling, its neon sign buzzing open though barely. She needed a moment, not to rest, but to strategize. Inside, the lights flickered over worn booths and scuffed linoleum floors. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes, noticed her limp and frowned. "Rough day, huh?" she said. Camila didn't want pity, she wanted coffee and silence. She slid into a far booth, back to the wall, eyes on the entrance. The waitress brought a chipped mug and a slice of pie, unasked. "You look like you've been through it," she said, her voice kind. Camila managed a thin smile. "Something like that, yeah." When the waitress shuffled away, Camila pulled out her phone. This time, no calls to agents or directors. She opened her secure files and typed, "Case initiation, Deputy Kyle Riker, civil rights violation, assault on federal officer." She hit save, and with that, the first nail was driven into his coffin. Did he have any idea what was coming? Not a clue. The fire she'd lit was about to spread, and nothing, not his badge, not his smirk, could stop it. Camila Brooks was coming for justice, and she was bringing a storm with her. Beep. The gas tank was full, and Camila Brooks snapped the nozzle back into place, twisting the cap shut with a fierce determination. She paused, her breath catching as a warm breeze swept through the cracked lot, kicking up dust and the sharp sting of gasoline. Can you hear it? In the distance, a siren wailed, faint but growing louder, like a storm rolling in. Was it for her? Not yet, oh no. But soon they'd come searching, not because she called, but because the internet was about to explode with rage. She slid into her black SUV, pulling onto the highway with a slow, methodical grace, the vehicle gliding over gravel as her knee throbbed with every press of the gas pedal. Did the pain slow her down? Not a chance. She welcomed it, let it ground her, fuel her fire. This was no ordinary day, this was the day justice began to claw its way to the surface. 20 miles down the road, she pulled into a rundown diner, its peeling red paint and buzzing neon sign screaming, open though barely. She wasn't here to rest, oh no way. She needed a moment to plot, to weave the threads of her next move. Inside, the lights flickered over worn booths and scuffed linoleum floors, casting long shadows. The waitress, her eyes heavy with the weight of long shifts, gave Camila a quick once-over, clocking the limp. "Nothing good, huh?" she said, her voice soft but knowing. Camila didn't want pity, she wanted coffee, black and strong, and 10 minutes of silence to sharpen her mind. She claimed the far booth, back against the wall, eyes locked on the entrance like a hawk. The waitress slid a chipped mug and a slice of pie across the table, unasked. "You look like you've had one hell of a day," she said, her kindness cutting through the diner's gloom. Camila managed a thin smile, her voice steady but weary. "Something like that, yeah." As the waitress shuffled away, Camila pulled out her phone, her fingers moving with purpose. This wasn't the time for calls to agents or directors. No, this was bigger. She opened her secure files and typed with a fury, "Case initiation, Deputy Kyle Riker, civil rights violation, assault on federal officer." Click, save. That was it, the first nail hammered into Riker's coffin. Did he have any idea what was coming? Not a clue. The storm was brewing, and Camila was its architect, ready to tear down the rotten system that shielded him. It didn't take long, oh, how fast the world caught fire. By the time Camila polished off her pie and drained her second cup of bitter coffee, that video was everywhere. It started small, just a few retweets from local high schoolers who knew the kid who'd filmed it, their fingers flying across screens in disbelief. Then a repost on a Missouri community page, boom. Within an hour it was a wildfire, blazing across TikTok, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, every platform alight with fury. That boot slamming into her shin, her body crumpling onto the gravel, Riker's vile smirk, his voice sneering, "That's where you belong," it played on repeat, a gut punch to anyone who saw it. Captions stitched the footage with raw anger, "This is America. She's somebody, just wait." The world didn't know Camila's name yet, but they saw the injustice, and they were livid. How could they not be? Stepping back into the humid night, Camila's phone buzzed like a swarm of bees. Marcus's text lit up the screen, "You're viral. Video's got 1 million hits already. Riker's name is trending. Got your file, highlights or full dirt?" She typed back one word, sharp and decisive, "Both." 2 minutes later, her phone rang, Marcus's voice low and urgent. "6 years on the force," he said, diving right in. "Riker's got 4 excessive force complaints, all closed. 3 involved black men under 30, 1 a Latina nurse he tried to arrest for a busted taillight, claiming she resisted. All dismissed. And get this, the sheriff's department backed him every single time. Supervisor Linda Calkins, elected 3 terms, runs unopposed, cozy with the county commission. Never filed a disciplinary report that stuck." Camila's jaw clenched, her eyes fixed on the empty road stretching into the darkness, the diner's neon sign flickering behind her like it couldn't decide whether to fight or fade. "They'll try to bury it," she said, her voice hard as steel. Marcus didn't argue. Too late. Video's out, story's hot. News vans are probably halfway to Benton already. Camila nodded, mostly to herself, her mind racing. Then let's make sure they don't get the chance. She hung up, climbed back into her SUV, her limp more pronounced now, her knee stiff from sitting. She winced as she settled in, but did she slow down? Never. She was already mapping her next 3 moves, her brain a chessboard where she played 5 steps ahead of the chaos. That's how she'd always survived, calm, sharp, unstoppable. By the time she hit the next exit, her inbox was a deluge, journalists, activists, former field agents she hadn't spoken to in years, all bombarding her with the same question, "Is that really you in the video?" Did she answer? Not yet. She had bigger fish to fry. Instead, she fired off an encrypted message to the Bureau's legal division, her words precise and commanding, "Need internal file access on Sheriff Linda Calkins. All deputies under her unit, last 10 years of complaints, resolved or not." 10 minutes later, a reply pinged back, "Working on it. Director's not happy." Camila smirked, "Oh, let him squirm." That was just the beginning. The sun had slipped below the tree line, plunging the highway into long eerie shadows. Her SUV's headlights caught dust swirling like ghosts on the road. She flicked on the radio, and every station was ablaze with the story. A video circulating online shows what appears to be a sheriff's deputy assaulting a black woman at a gas station. Civil rights attorneys are demanding an immediate investigation into the Benton County Sheriff's Office. The woman's identity remains unknown, but sources suggest ties to federal law enforcement. Camila turned the volume down, her focus unshaken. She knew what was coming: the press conferences, the excuses, the fake shock from officials who'd turned a blind eye for years. Would they pretend to care? Of course they would. But Camila wasn't here for their crocodile tears. She was here for results, and she'd get them. She pulled into a small roadside motel just past the county line, checking in under a false name, paying cash. Old habits die hard. She didn't need prying eyes tonight, not until her plan was locked and loaded. The room was bare bones: a twin bed, a dusty lamp, a TV that probably hadn't worked since the Bush era, but it had Wi-Fi and a lock that held. She set her laptop on the wobbly table and opened the folder Marcus had sent: Riker's record, grainy photos, scanned complaints ignored, civilian witness reports buried. One stood out: a woman's letter to the editor 3 years ago, calling Riker hostile, aggressive, drunk on power. It was never published, and now here they were. How could they let this happen? Camila created a new document, titling it Benton Pattern of Misconduct, Preliminary Findings. She typed for an hour, her knee iced with a damp, rolled-up towel from the bathroom, her phone buzzing with updates she ignored. Every word she wrote was a brick in the wall she was building, not just around Riker, but around the entire corrupt foundation propping him up. That kick. It wasn't just an assault, it was a window into a rigged system, and she was about to smash it wide open. Could they stop her? Not a chance. Sleep? Forget it. Camila barely closed her eyes that night, maybe stealing 20 minutes on the motel's threadbare blanket, but her mind never stopped racing. This wasn't just about Riker anymore. Oh no. He was just the tip of a much darker, meaner iceberg. Around 4:15 a.m., she poured herself a cup of motel coffee that tasted like rust and regret, grimacing as she opened a second file Marcus had uploaded. Sheriff Linda Calkins, 47, former state trooper, elected sheriff at 39, 3 terms unopposed. Her record? Suspiciously clean. Too clean. How could that be? Camila leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she read between the lines. Calkins had signed off on every one of Riker's misconduct dismissals, every single one. And it didn't stop there. At least 11 other officers under her command had excessive force complaints, most swept under the rug within days. Not one faced discipline, not one. Was this just bad luck? No way. This was a pattern, a deliberate system, rotten to the core. She opened another tab, cross-referencing cases by date, her fingers flying over the keys. Every complaint against a Benton County deputy linked back to the same players: an internal affairs officer who saw no fault, a clerk who lost body cam footage, a judge who tossed out civil suits on technicalities. All of them, Camila noted, were tied to Calkins' office, politically, financially, a web of corruption. It wasn't just broken, it was rigged from the ground up. How deep did this go? She sat back, exhaling hard, her legs still throbbing, her hands gripping the coffee mug like a lifeline. The pressure in her chest wasn't pain, it was clarity, the kind that hits when you realize the problem isn't one man, but the toxic soil he grew in. Outside, the sky was softening to gray, a new day dawning, but this one? Oh, it would be different. Camila dressed quickly, clean jeans, a black tee under her jacket, hair pulled back, badge clipped inside her waistband, hidden for now. Then she called Marcus, who picked up on the first ring. "You're early." "I'm pissed," she shot back, her voice flat but burning. "And I've got a job for you." "Hit me." "Find out who's funding Calkins' re-election, PACs, real estate, out-of-town donations. I want the whole tree, not just branches." "I'm on it." She paused, her voice dropping. "And Marcus? I need to know if she's dirty, or if she's the architect." The line went heavy, he got it. By 6 a.m., Camila checked out of the motel, the manager too engrossed in his crossword to notice. Fine by her, she didn't need attention, not yet. Driving past the gas station, she saw the first news van parked where Riker had kicked her down just 24 hours ago. A reporter stood by the pumps, mic in hand, speaking into the morning sun. That clip? It'd be on every screen in America by lunch. Camila didn't slow down, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. At 7:30, she pulled into the FBI field office outside Jefferson City, striding in with no fanfare, just a flash of her badge, steely eye contact, and a tone that shut down questions. She claimed a back conference room, set up her laptop, and within the hour, Marcus delivered campaign finance records, donation logs, internal memos. Sheriff Calkins was propped up by 2 local construction firms, a shady security company, and a retired judge running a community board that hadn't filed a public report in 5 years. All had scored fat contracts through the sheriff's office, construction, surveillance upgrades, even jail food deals. The connections lined up like dominoes, ready to fall. Camila stared at the names, her pulse quickening. She opened a new document, not for the FBI or the press, this was for her. She titled it Network and began to build, Riker at the bottom, Calkins above, the internal affairs officer, the judge, the clerk, the donors, a sprawling web of enablers. Each name she added shifted something inside her. Was it revenge? Rage? No, it was duty pure and fierce. This wouldn't just be a headline, it'd be a reckoning, and Camila Brooks was ready to bring it all crashing down. Just after noon, Camila Brooks stepped outside, her first breath of fresh air in hours. Oh, how she needed it. The sky was a brilliant blue, almost too perfect, mocking the storm brewing inside her. She sank onto the courthouse steps, phone in hand, watching as notifications flooded in like a tidal wave. A civil rights lawyer from Atlanta, a senator's aide begging for a statement, a national news anchor pleading for a live interview. Can you believe the frenzy? She ignored every single one. Was she ready to talk? Not yet. Her fire was still smoldering, gathering strength, and she wasn't about to let it loose until it was a blazing inferno. Back inside, she gripped her phone, her resolve like iron, and made one more call, this time to Denise Hampton, a federal prosecutor she teamed up with years ago on a gritty corruption case in Kansas City. Denise answered with a weary hello. "It's Brooks," Camila said, her voice cutting through the line like a blade. Denise snapped to attention. "Oh my God, I saw the video. Didn't realize it was you until this morning." "Yeah, it was me," Camila replied, her tone steady but raw. "You okay?" Denise asked, concern thick in her voice. "No," Camila admitted, "but I will be. Listen, I'm building something, a network, and I need your help when it's ready." A beat of silence hung heavy, then Denise's voice, firm and unwavering, "You name it." Camila ended the call, her heart pounding. The walls were closing in now, on them, not her. She was just getting started, and the world was about to feel her wrath. By the next morning, when Camila strode into Benton County's courthouse, the world had caught up to her story. Oh, how it had. That video? It was everywhere, plastered across CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, looping endlessly, searing itself into America's conscience. A sheriff's deputy's boot raised high, slamming into a black woman's leg at a gas station, her body crumpling, his smirk dripping with malice. 1 second of violence that ignited a nation. But now, the world was about to see the whole ugly truth. Camila didn't roll in with an entourage. No lawyers, no security, just her, standing 10 feet.
Étole in spirit.
Her knee throbbed with every step, wrapped tight under her slacks. But did she limp? Not today, not here, not with every eye locked on her. She wore her badge openly on her belt, a gleaming symbol of her authority, daring anyone to challenge her. The courthouse steps were a circus, journalists jostling, locals whispering, activists chanting, and cameras, so many cameras, their lenses glinting like predators. A makeshift podium stood front and center, microphones from every major outlet jutting out like spears. Behind ropes, a crowd buzzed, signs waving in the sweltering Missouri air, "Justice for Camila."
Fire Ricaire. Break the system.
Can you feel the electricity? Camila paused just before the podium, took a deep breath, then stepped forward. The noise hushed instantly, as if the world held its breath. She surveyed the crowd, her face calm but razor-sharp, like a blade finally freed from its sheath. "My name is Camila Brooks," she began, her voice steady, each word a hammer strike.
I am the FBI chief for the Midwestern Division.
For 26 years, I've served this country, working with federal agents, local police, international task forces. I've taken down drug cartels, dismantled trafficking rings, exposed corruption in courtrooms and state houses. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in, the crowd hanging on every syllable. Yesterday, she continued, her voice unwavering, I was assaulted in broad daylight on American soil by a uniformed officer who didn't ask questions, didn't check facts, didn't care who I was, only what I looked like.
Un murmure rippled through the crowd, a collective gasp of outrage.
I didn't tell him who I was because I wanted to see how far he'd go. And he went all the way. He shoved me.
Et kicked me.
Then he walked away like it was nothing. Her voice stayed level, but her eyes? They blazed with a fire that could burn through steel. I'm not here to talk about just one man, she declared. I'm here to expose the system that trained him to think that was okay, that protected him after 4 previous complaints, that let his supervisor dismiss them without a second thought. That's not law enforcement, that's complicity. Camera shutters snapped like a summer storm, a reporter from Atlanta leaning forward, hungry for more. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Tell it." Camila nodded, firm and resolute. I've filed a formal complaint with the Department of Justice, she announced, her voice ringing out. I've submitted evidence of a pattern of civil rights violations inside the Benton County Sheriff's Office, and I've launched a federal probe into Sheriff Linda Calkins, her leadership, her contracts, her finances, her entire command staff. Gasps echoed, loud and sharp, a shockwave rolling through the press line. Calkins' name hadn't been tied to this, until now. Did Camila flinch? Not a bit. We're not dealing with a bad apple, she said, her words cutting like a knife. We're facing a spoiled orchard.
The crowd exploded. Cheer, shoo, applause thundering like a storm breaking loose.
Camila stood still, letting it swell, letting it carry her message. When it began to fade, she leaned in again. This isn't just about me. This is about every person stopped because they looked out of place, every kid searched for wearing the wrong hoodie, every mother whose complaint vanished, every man roughed up and told to be grateful it wasn't worse. Her eyes scanned the crowd, connecting with strangers who felt like kin. This isn't about politics, she said, her voice fierce. It's about justice. It's about truth. It's about fixing what we've let rot for far too long. Her voice softened, just a touch. I didn't ask for this spotlight. I didn't expect this fight. But I'm not backing down, not now, not ever.
The applause roared again, loudé, shaking the Grundbeneateur.
Behind the cameras, a sheriff's department officer stood rigid, watching her. Camila caught his gaze, held it a second longer than polite, her eyes saying, I see you. Then she stepped back from the podium. Reporters shouted, their voices overlapping, Chief Brooks, have you been threatened? Is Riker still on duty? Should Calkins resign? Did she answer? Nope. She turned, shoulders squared, stride firm, and walked down the steps, a warrior in motion. Marcus met her by the SUV, handing her a bottle of water with a grin. That was one hell of a speech.
Camila exhaled, a rare smile tugging at her lips.
Now they know. Yeah, Marcus replied, but so does Calkins. Good, she shot back.
I'm counting on it.
He opened the passenger door, but she paused, glancing back at the courthouse, the crowd, the chaos. This isn't just a spark anymore, she said, her voice low but electric. It's a fuse. She climbed in, and the fire followed, ready to consume everything in its path. They didn't wait long to hit back. Oh, how bold they were. That night, just after 10 p.m., Camila was wrapping up a call with a DOJ contact in D.C. when the motel lights outside flickered. Crunch, footsteps on gravel. Her senses snapped to high alert, every nerve on edge. She ended the call, and the silence that followed was too heavy, too deliberate. She stood, crept to the window, peered through the blinds, and her heart plummeted. Her SUV was ablaze, flames curling from the hood, licking the windshield, devouring the engine like it was nothing. She grabbed her phone, dialed Marcus, and bolted outside barefoot, the heat blasting her face across the lot.
The fire roared, abyssed une hachette.
Someone had hurled a Molotov cocktail, glass bottle, gasoline, cloth wick, right through the front grille. Classic, but vicious. Smoke clawed at her throat, her eyes stung, and there under the street lamp she saw it, a scrap of cardboard wedged under a nearby car's wiper. 3 words, scrawled in thick black marker, stay in your lane. A warning? Ha. Warnings only work on those who run, and Camila Brooks? She doesn't run. Marcus screeched into the lot 5 minutes later, fire extinguisher in hand, spraying until the flames hissed and died, foam pooling like a defeated enemy. He turned, chest heaving, and locked eyes with her. "They're scared." She nodded once, fierce. "Good." The next morning, Camila filed a federal intimidation complaint. Take that. That same day, bodycam footage from the assault surfaced, leaked by a whistleblower inside the sheriff's office. It confirmed everything: Riker's boot, her fall, and worse, audio of him mocking her as she struggled, hurling racial slurs, laughing like a coward. Could they spin this? Not anymore. Calkins tried, posting a weak PR statement on the department's Facebook page, vague deep concern, and awaiting investigation nonsense. No mention of Camila or Riker. Pathetic. Camila didn't bother responding. Why waste her breath? By noon, protests erupted in Columbia, Jefferson City, Springfield. People were done waiting. They marched, signs high, chanting her name, demanding resignations, indictments. That night, Marcus called with grim news. "They're digging, Cam. Deep. Word is someone in D.C. leaked you're under review for, get this, breach of protocol. Anonymous tip says you incited the protests on purpose, weaponized your role for revenge."
Camila Logued, cold and sharp.
Same tip that said I staged the video? Probably. Good. Let them try. But later, a heavier blow landed. An encrypted FBI message hit her inbox. Temporary suspension, effective immediately.
No badge, no access, no authority, gone, just like that.
She stared at the screen, silent, the weight sinking in. They'd pulled her without a hearing, without a word. She stood, walked to the bathroom, and faced her reflection. Did she look defeated? Not a bit. Inside, a knot formed, not anger, not defeat, but resolve, burning hotter than ever. They wanted her silent?
Oh, she dey get loudé.
She called Marcus.
Time to go public.
You sure? Yes.
Full release, bodycam, email, everything. Leak it all.
And they did. That night, a trusted journalist at a national outlet dropped the bomb. Front page story, unedited clips, screenshots, timelines, the whole Benton rot laid bare. Her name wasn't in the byline, but everyone knew it was Camila's voice, exposing the corruption, shattering the silence.
The response? Nuclear.
Senators issued statements, civil rights groups demanded DOJ oversight, #Justice for Camila trended for 48 hours straight. Without her badge, her message soared higher than ever. But the other side wasn't done, oh no. 2 nights later, Camila returned to her room after a strategy call and froze. Her door? Kicked in. Drawers emptied, mattress slashed, laptop smashed, duffel bag gutted, files torn. Worst of all, a photo of her nephew, old and cherished, lay shredded on the bed. This wasn't just a warning, it was personal, a dagger to her heart. But did it break her? Never. Camila Brooks was forged in fire, and she was ready to burn it all down. Camila Brooks grabbed her phone, her voice slicing through the air like a sharpened blade. "They're trying to erase me, Marcus," she declared, fury crackling in every word. "They won't," he shot back, his tone fierce with loyalty. "No way," she retorted, her resolve like steel. "Because I'm going to erase them first." She swept the trashed motel room for bugs, her eyes darting to every corner, checking the doorframe, wedging a chair under the window's handle for extra security. Then she sat at the desk, pulling out her backup phone. Oh, they thought they could silence her? Not a chance. Her badge might be clipped, but her memory? Her intel? Sharp as a razor, ready to cut through their lies. That night, she didn't sleep, she built. Not just a case, but a full-on takedown, not just of Riker, but of every single cog in their corrupt machine. When dawn broke, was she tired? Hell no. She was ready, a warrior poised to strike. By the time the Missouri sun rose, painting the sky in fiery hues, Camila had showered, swapped her torn clothes for fresh ones, and set up camp in a new hideout, a cramped rental cabin tucked behind a bait shop off a forgotten county road. No one knew she was there except Marcus, and that's exactly how she wanted it. Why? Because it was time to stop reacting, time to flip the game on its head. They'd kicked in her door, set her SUV ablaze, smeared her name, stripped her badge, coming at her with fire, lies, and fear. But Camila? She was about to hit back with cold, hard facts. The whistleblower who'd leaked the bodycam footage had slipped her something else, a bombshell. A memo, buried deep in the Benton County server, dated 6 months back, from an officer now conveniently reassigned out of state. It read, Deputy Riker recommended for temporary leave pending review of escalating use of force patterns. Sheriff Calkins overruled. No follow-up initiated. There it was, in stark black and white. They knew. They knew Riker was a problem and kept him on the streets anyway. Can you believe the audacity? Camila fired off the memo to Denise Hampton, the federal prosecutor she trusted with her life. Then she called Marcus, her voice brimming with purpose. Ready. Always, he replied, his tone matching her fire. We're setting the trap. She laid out her plan, a controlled leak, fake intel sprinkled like breadcrumbs through burner accounts and encrypted forums. A whisper that Camila was meeting a DOJ special investigator at a local courthouse, armed with damning documents. The rumor would hit the sheriff's crew like lightning. They'll bite, Marcus said, his voice low with certainty. They're paranoid and desperate. Exactly. Camila agreed. This time, we let them come to us. By noon the trap was set, the bait a laptop bag stuffed with dummy files and blank drives, convincing enough to tempt, useless if snatched. They picked an old courthouse in a satellite town just west of Benton, its rusted metal doors and faded paint standing like a ghost of justice past. Camila positioned herself on the 3rd floor, near a shattered window, her heart steady, her eyes sharp. Marcus? He was across the street, parked in a truck, binoculars glued to the scene. At 4:37 p.m., the first black SUV rolled in, no plates, sleek and sinister, followed by another. 3 men stepped out, 2 in plain clothes, one with a radio clipped to his belt. Sheriff's boys, off duty but armed to the teeth. Did they knock? Hell no. They kicked the side door in, their boots echoing like thunder. Camila didn't flinch, she hit record. Hidden cameras she and Marcus had planted earlier captured it all. Their barked threats, their frantic search, the guy rifling through the decoy bag, muttering a slur under his breath when he spotted Camila at the end of the hallway, calm as a storm's eye. You think this is gonna scare me, she said, her voice low, steady, a challenge wrapped in steel. He stepped forward, chest puffed, ready to prove something. That's when Marcus made the call. Within 90 seconds, 2 federal agents burst through the front entrance, badges flashing, body armor gleaming. FBI, one bellowed. Hands where we can see them. The intruders froze, caught like rats in a trap. Camila stepped forward, her recording device still rolling, her eyes burning with defiance. You brought the fight to my door, she said. Now you're gonna answer for it. The agents cuffed all 3 on the spot, their wrists snapping into steel. Marcus strolled in, nodding once to Camila. Worked like a charm. Of course it did, she shot back. They think they're hunting, but they've been prey since Tuesday. The footage was packaged and sent straight to the Bureau's Office of Internal Affairs, BAM. But was Camila done? Not even close. She uploaded a 30-second clip to her private cloud, then shared it with a journalist who'd broken the first story. No names, no faces, just shadows and one furious voice snarling, she's done. You hear me? Done. The clip detonated online, flipping the narrative on its head. This wasn't just a viral video of a racist cop anymore. Oh no. It was proof of organized retaliation against a federal officer. The DOJ had no choice but to act, issuing a call for a special investigation into the Benton County Sheriff's Department. Calkins? Slapped on administrative leave, pending review. Riker? Still suspended, twisting in the wind. Camila read the headlines from the cabin that night, her eyes glinting with purpose. Marcus poured her a coffee, handing it over with a grin. You turned their ambush into a federal raid. She smiled, and for the first time in days it was real, not a smirk, not a tactic, but a genuine spark of triumph. But did she think it was over? Never. The first crack wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. She leaned back in the creaky wooden chair, glancing at her bandaged leg, flexing her fingers like a boxer ready for round 2. Now, she said, her voice low and fierce, we go after the ones giving the orders. She opened her laptop, creating a new file titled Chain of Command. If Calkins wasn't the top of this pyramid, someone was, and Camila was going to climb that chain, rung by rung, until she found the hand that lit the match. And when she did, she'd burn it all down. The next few days rolled like thunder across the Missouri hills, quiet at first, but building, oh how it built. Camila didn't pause, didn't waver. Every hour was a move on the chessboard, another name linked, another file unearthed. She was mapping the full hierarchy of the machine she was dismantling, and what she found. It chilled her to the bone. Calkins wasn't acting alone, not by a long shot. A name kept surfacing, lurking in email threads, vendor contracts, private donation records. State Senator Everett Grayson, a retired cop, a so-called law enforcement ally with a knack for shady backroom deals and old-school politics. On the surface, he looked squeaky clean, all polished suits and patriotic slogans. But Camila? She'd been in this game too long to fall for that. Grayson wasn't just propping up the system, he was bankrolling it. He'd funneled campaign cash into the sheriff's department, backed Calkins' re-election bids, and get this. A flagged security clearance form Marcus dug up showed he'd once pushed for Riker to be fast-tracked through tactical training. Can you imagine the nerve? Digging deeper, Camila found the thread that snapped everything into focus. Oh, what a revelation. Grayson sat on the State Oversight Committee, the very group tasked with reviewing misconduct cases against sheriffs and local law enforcement. He'd built a fortress and made himself the gatekeeper. Camila didn't hesitate. She called Denise, her voice electric with urgency. We've got our architect. Denise's reply was taut, ready. You set to pull the roof down? More than ready. Camila shot back, her heart racing with the thrill of the hunt. Together, they drafted a sealed affidavit, demanding a federal audit of all law enforcement funding flowing through Grayson's office over the past 6 years. Then, with surgical precision, Camila slipped the file to a fearless investigative journalist in St. Louis, the kind who laughed at threats and never ran a story without ironclad proof. The article dropped 48 hours later, its headline a sledgehammer, state senator linked to sheriff abuse cover-up. FBI sources confirm investigation underway. The story blew the doors off everything. News crews swarmed Jefferson City, cameras flashing like a lightning storm. Grayson canceled his town hall, ducking the spotlight. Calkins' lawyer?
Silent as a grave.
The world was reeling, and Camila's name? It was synonymous with courage. Some called her reckless, others a hero, but invisible? Never again. Yet, the price of fire is heat, and Camila was burning. Her suspension still hung over her, the bureau staying mum as the case exploded. Their official line?
No comment.
But Camila wasn't fooled. She knew some within the agency wanted this to fade, to vanish like so many scandals before. Did she plan to let that happen?
Not in a million years.
She pushed forward, enlisting Marcus to tap a second whistleblower, this time a nervous staffer from Grayson's own circle, skittish but fed up with being a pawn. He handed over a game-changer, a transcript of a private call, Grayson's voice unmistakable, scheming to tighten up leaks and handle the FBI problem before the next election. That recording? It was dynamite. Camila sent it straight to Denise, who didn't blink. Within 12 hours, an official criminal referral was filed, boom. This wasn't just a probe anymore, it was a pending indictment. In the cabin, Marcus delivered the printed affidavit, handing it to Camila like the final piece of a puzzle. This puts him on the hook, he said, his eyes gleaming. She nodded, reading each line with care, her pulse steadying. Her body ached, her legs stiff, but her mind?
Razor sharp, cutting through the chaos.
We're not done, she said, her voice resolute. He's the top, but he didn't build this alone. Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping. There's more. An anonymous source dropped this. He slid a flash drive across the table, and Camila's heart skipped a beat. She plugged it in, and the screen flickered to life, grainy surveillance footage, low light, a backroom in what looked like a warehouse. There they were, Riker, Calkins, Grayson, no uniforms, no pretense, just raw power. They weren't discussing justice. They were plotting optics, scheming to shut her down before her truth spread. Camila stared, her breath catching. This was it, the conspiracy, real, raw, undeniable. They'd planned it all, the intimidation, the sabotage, the media manipulation. This wasn't about a single kick anymore, oh no. It was about how far power will claw to protect itself. She stood slowly, walked to the window, the sun setting in a blaze of orange over the treetops. Tomorrow, everything would break open. She turned to Marcus, her voice a command.
Lick it all.
He raised an eyebrow. Even the audio.
Every damn beat.
That night, the video hit every major platform, and Camila didn't need to narrate. The footage screamed for itself, shaking the world to its core. The public didn't just react. Oh no, they exploded.
A tidal wave of outrage swept the nation, voices roaring for justice.
The governor, caught in the whirlwind, called for emergency hearings, his hands practically shaking under the pressure. The FBI? They buckled from every angle, and by the next morning, Camila Brooks' suspension was lifted, bam. The Bureau's director issued a statement, praising those who refused to be silenced in the face of systemic failure. Did Camila pause to bask in the praise?
Not a chance.
She was already packing her duffel, zipping it with fierce determination, slinging it over her shoulder as arrest warrants were signed for Calkins, Riker, Grayson, and every other cog in their corrupt machine. The reckoning was here, and she was its architect. As she zipped her bag, the Missouri sky buzzed with chaos, helicopters whirring, media vans screeching, sirens wailing like a chorus of fury. Marcus looked at her, his half-grin brimming with awe.
You lead the match, Cam.
Camila pulled on her jacket, her eyes blazing. No, Marcus, I was the match. And with that, she stepped into the night, a force of nature ready to tear down the rotten empire. Can you feel the electricity? The air crackled with the promise of justice. The sun had barely peaked over the tree-line when the first warrant hit like a thunderbolt. Sheriff Linda Calkins was dragged from her home at 6:07 a.m., still in her robe, her face pale with shock. No sirens, no cameras, just a quiet knock, a flash of a badge, and a shattering of everything she'd built. Her hands were cuffed right in front of her husband, her neighbors gawking from porches in stunned silence. Did she scream? Deny it? Not a word, just a woman who thought she was untouchable, now crumbling under the weight of her own deeds. An hour later, Deputy Kyle Riker's turn came. Federal agents nabbed him in his driveway, his bravado crumbling as he puffed his chest, shouting it was all political. Did the agents flinch? Not a bit. They had the footage, the memo, the pattern, the orders, everything to bury him. By mid-morning, Senator Grayson's office was sealed tight by federal marshals, but he was nowhere to be found. The coward had fled hours earlier, a plane ticket to a Montana fishing retreat, his desperate escape. Did it save him? Ha! They tracked him down by sunset, holed up in a lodge under a fake name, drowning his fears in whiskey. When they cuffed him, he didn't utter a sound, just a silent fall from his throne. Back in Missouri, the courthouse was a madhouse. Protesters lined the streets, their signs a sea of defiance. Journalists stood shoulder to shoulder behind barricades, every news channel in the country aiming cameras at the steps. And who emerged from the chaos? Camila Brooks, striding out the front doors, her badge gleaming on her belt, her suit crisp, her eyes steady as steel. Her suspension was over, her silence shattered. Did she speak to the cameras? Not yet. She raised one hand, a small silent signal, and the crowd erupted. Cheers, shouts, a roar of solidarity. It wasn't just about her anymore. Oh no, it hadn't been for a long time. Inside, indictments rained down. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, destruction of evidence, violation of civil rights under color of law, boom, boom, boom. More were coming, the list growing as lower-level deputies flipped, spilling names like a dam bursting. The system had cracked, and now it was collapsing, brick by rotten brick. Camila returned to the field office that afternoon, debriefing with Marcus and Denise. The mood? Quiet, not celebratory, focused, determined. Why? Because they knew what outsiders didn't. This wasn't the end. This was where power fights to survive, and survival turns monsters desperate. The FBI issued protection orders for Camila and Marcus, but did she accept a security detail? No way. It wasn't pride, it was principle. She'd spent too long in bureaucracy's shadows, and she wasn't hiding now. That night, she drove herself home for the first time in a week, her own driveway, her own porch light, the same oak tree swaying in the breeze. But it felt different, heavier, like the weight of her fight had settled into the very ground. She stepped inside, dropped her keys on the table with a clink, and stood in the silence, soaking it in. No alerts, no calls, just quiet, the kind that begs for reflection. Can you imagine the stillness after such a storm? She sat, poured a glass of water, and flipped on the TV. Grayson's mugshot glared back, a news ticker screaming, FBI official identified as source in corruption crackdown. Her name, her title, her voice from the leaked recordings looped endlessly. She turned the volume down. It was all moving so fast, even she could barely keep up. But that same night, chaos struck again. Someone firebombed the Benton County Sheriff's Office lobby. No injuries, but oh, what a message. Not all the rot was gone, and some weren't ready to let it die quietly. Marcus called 5 minutes after the news broke, his voice urgent. "We've got a problem." Camila didn't ask what, she just said, "Where?" He gave her the address, an old warehouse tied to one of Grayson's donors, the same one who'd bid on jail food contracts. Surveillance showed lights, deliveries, armed men guarding the perimeter, a secret stronghold. Camila didn't hesitate, she called in a warrant.
The raid hit juste past midnight, a surgical strike.
They uncovered hard drives, unregistered weapons, burner phones, and get this, printed folders stuffed with surveillance photos of Camila, Marcus, even Denise. Pictures snapped in public, at cafes, outside courtrooms, with notes scrawled in the margins. This wasn't just corruption, it was a full-blown operation, and Camila was their prime target.
Can you feel the chill?
By morning, headlines blared, FBI whistleblower targeted in retaliation plot. The backlash was swift, unstoppable. The governor demanded federal oversight of Benton County's justice system. DOJ teams were dispatched, boots on the ground. Camila was summoned to testify before a Senate panel, and did she waver? Not for a second. She stood in a navy suit, her left leg still bandaged beneath, speaking with a clarity forged in pain. "This wasn't one man," she declared, her voice ringing. "Not one sheriff, not one senator, it was a structure. And structures don't fall unless you dig at their foundation."
Her word it like a shockwave, making national news.
But did they make her safer? No, they made her a bigger target. That night, she found a note taped to her apartment door, 3 words in thick marker, "We see you." Did it shake her? Ha! She plucked it down calmly, folded it, slipped it into her pocket like it was nothing. Compared to what she'd faced, 3 words were dust. But she knew the fight wasn't over. Exposed systems rebuild, hiding scars, swapping one face for another. That's the nature of rot. It clings, it waits. Was Camila scared? Never. She returned to her desk the next morning, diving back into work. No fanfare, no press, just another coffee, another stack of reports, another lead to chase. Why? Because out there, another Riker walked free, another Calkins signed off, another Grayson pulled strings behind a velvet curtain. She'd find them, and next time? She wouldn't wait for a kick, she'd strike first. Camila Brooks was more than a badge, more than the woman in that viral video. She was the storm that followed, and she wasn't done, not by a long shot. Camila knew the fight would never truly end. You don't rip the curtain off a system that old, that entrenched, and expect it to surrender quietly. But what came next? Oh, it caught her off guard. On a quiet Wednesday morning, she was leaving a strategy meeting with DOJ analysts, her badge back where it belonged, when her phone buzzed. An encrypted ping from Marcus, 1 word, "Move." Did she question it? Not for a second. Instinct kicked in. She crossed the street, ducked into a parked delivery van, and vanished before a black SUV, windows tinted, plates missing, rounded the corner. It idled outside the federal building for 30 seconds, then sped off. They were still watching, still tracking, not just on foot, but with chilling precision. 2 days later, a young cyber investigator from Quantico showed up, nervous, clutching a folder like it might explode. "We found something in your secure badge," he said, voice trembling. "A low-frequency beacon, military-grade, remotely triggered." Camila stared, her heart pounding. "I've been tagged." He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "By who?" No answer, not one he could voice. She thanked him, dismissed him, locked the door, and stood in her apartment, silent, processing. Had they stopped her? No way.
They'd juste gone quitter, sneaker.
She called Marcus, her voice taut. "We go now. To the cabin."
No, Gulf Shore.
The last name on the file. That file? A secret she hadn't shared, not even with Denise. Weeks ago it had appeared under her motel door, an unmarked envelope with surveillance photos of Grayson meeting Vincent Hargrove, private security magnate, former military contractor, a shadow with no official rank but plenty of power.
And the kicker?
He was tied to her suspension, the one who'd urged the DOJ to cool her down after the protests. She knew now, he was the hand behind the curtain. They drove through the night, no lights, no words, just the hum of the road and the weight of their mission.
Hargrove et Saos perchés en un cliffside overlooking the Gulf. Too slick for all money, too cold for new.
Camilla approached alone, Marcus watching through a scope.
She rend the balance.
Hargrove answered, mid-60s, trim beard, smooth voice, exuding the calm of untouchable power. You came, he said, unsurprised. You had me tagged, she shot back, unflinching. He smiled.
À précaution.
You were drawing attention. You tried to silence me. I tried to save a country from tearing itself apart. Camilla stepped inside, the air thick with leather and lies. Hargrove poured a drink, offering her none. You think you've won, Agent Brooks, he said, his voice slick. But you don't get the game. You made noise, enemies, exposed a system built to outlast one woman with a microphone. Did she blink? Not once. I didn't come to argue. Then why are you here? She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, setting it on the table with a thud. The rest of it, she said.
Every fil, every conversation, your contractor, your off-book surveillance.
If anything happens to me, my team, if I vanish, if I'm discredited, if I'm hit, this goes public internationally immediately. Hargrove's smile vanished, his eyes narrowing.
You de burn it all down.
The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Then he nodded, voice low. This was never about you, Camilla. It was about the system holding. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. That's the difference between us, she said, her voice a quiet thunder.
You serve a system. He serves the truth.
She stepped into the night, the Gulf's wind hitting her face like a warning, but Camilla Brooks didn't stop. She was the storm, and the truth was her weapon. Outside, the Gulf's wind slammed into Camilla Brooks' face like a warning, sharp and biting, as if the world itself was trying to push her back. The sea below roared, a wild, untamed beast. But did she stop? Not for a second. She marched to the car, her steps resolute, climbed in, and uttered just two words, heavy with finality, it's done. Marcus, her steadfast ally, didn't ask what she meant. Oh no, he knew better. He just fired up the engine, the hum of the car a quiet promise of the storm still to come. Can you feel the weight of that moment? The air crackled with the power of a woman who'd stared down the shadows and walked away unbroken. The next morning, Camilla did something unthinkable. She submitted her resignation. Was it shame? Retreat? Never. She did it to break free, to speak without the chains of bureaucracy holding her back. Her final report, unleashed through an independent watchdog agency, hit the country like a thunderbolt. It laid bare every detail of her crusade, from that brutal kick at the gas station to the arrests that shook the corrupt to their core, from the chilling surveillance to the sabotage meant to silence her, from the local rot in Benton County to the dark federal shadows pulling strings. She didn't name Vincent Hargrove. Did she need to? Not at all. Those who knew the game read between the lines, every word a coded dagger. The report sent shockwaves rippling across America. Can you imagine the uproar? Public hearings erupted in its wake, lawmakers scrambling to respond. Laws changed, some just for show, sure, but others? Real, tangible shifts in the fight for justice. But what mattered most? People were watching now, their eyes wide open, paying attention like never before. Camilla took to the stage, speaking at colleges, town halls, veteran events, civil rights rallies, her voice a beacon in the darkness. And every time she delivered the same powerful truth, justice doesn't begin with punishment, it begins with truth. Oh, how ugly that truth was, raw and unyielding, but it was out, shining like a lighthouse for all to see.
Did it change the world?
You bet it did. 1 year later, Camilla returned to that gas station, the very place where it all began. The pumps were new, gleaming under the sun, the gravel freshly paved, smoothing over the scars of that fateful day. No trace of the violence remained, except one. A small bronze plaque stood quietly by the lot's edge, its words etched in defiance. Here stood a woman. She didn't fall. Camilla lingered there, alone, no press, no cameras. Just her and the weight of memory, the echo of that boot, the fire of everything that followed. Did she cry? Did she falter?
Not Camilla Brooks.
She stood tall, her heart steady, then turned, climbed back into her car, and drove away, not running oh no but charging toward whatever came next. Why? Because storms don't stop, they move, and Camila was already surging forward, unstoppable. Here's something worth shouting from the rooftops, not just from Camila's story, but for every one of us watching, listening, living. Justice isn't a single moment, it's a movement, a relentless tide. And where does it start?
In the quietest, most unexpected place. À Dusty Gas Station, à Lonely Road, à women who refuse to stay down.
What did Camila teach us? Something so simple yet so powerful. You don't need to scream to raise the truth. You just need to stand in it, unwavering, even when the odds tower over you, when the powerful try to silence you, when the system snarls, stay in your lane. That's when it matters most to dig in, to hold your ground. Can you feel the fire in those words? Because integrity? It doesn't retire.
Courage.
It doesn't age. And truth, oh, truth has no expiration date. So wherever you are, whatever chapter of life you're writing, hear this loud and clear. You're never too old to take a stand, never too small to make a difference, never too late to be the spark that changes everything for the better. Camila didn't fall, did she? No way. And neither will you. Her story is a clarion call, a reminder that one woman, armed with nothing but her resolve and the truth, can shake the foundations of corruption and light the way for justice. Are you ready to stand with her? That night, she found a note taped to her apartment door, 3 words in thick marker, "We see you." Did it shake her? Ha! She plucked it down calmly, folded it, slipped it into her pocket like it was nothing. Compared to what she'd faced, 3 words were dust. But she knew the fight wasn't over. Exposed systems rebuild, hiding scars, swapping one face for another. That's the nature of rot. It clings, it waits. Was Camila scared? Never. She returned to her desk the next morning, diving back into work. No fanfare, no press, just another coffee, another stack of reports, another lead to chase. Why? Because out there, another Riker walked free, another Calkins signed off, another Grayson pulled strings behind a velvet curtain. She'd find them, and next time? She wouldn't wait for a kick, she'd strike first. Camila Brooks was more than a badge, more than the woman in that viral video. She was the storm that followed, and she wasn't done, not by a long shot. Camila knew the fight would never truly end. You don't rip the curtain off a system that old, that entrenched, and expect it to surrender quietly. But what came next? Oh, it caught her off guard. On a quiet Wednesday morning, she was leaving a strategy meeting with DOJ analysts, her badge back where it belonged, when her phone buzzed. An encrypted ping from Marcus, one word, move. Did she question it? Not for a second. Instinct kicked in. She crossed the street, ducked into a parked delivery van, and vanished before a black SUV, windows tinted, plates missing, rounded the corner. It idled outside the federal building for 30 seconds, then sped off. They were still watching, still tracking, not just on foot, but with chilling precision. 2 days later, a young cyber investigator from Quantico showed up, nervous, clutching a folder like it might explode. "We found something in your secure badge," he said, voice trembling. "A low-frequency beacon, military-grade, remotely triggered." Camila stared, her heart pounding. "I've been tagged." He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. By who? No answer, not one he could voice. She thanked him, dismissed him, locked the door, and stood in her apartment, silent, processing. Had they stopped her? No way.
They'd juste gone quitter, sneaker.
She called Marcus, her voice taut. "We go now. To the cabin."
No, Gulf Shore.
The last name on the file. That file? A secret she hadn't shared, not even with Denise. Weeks ago it had appeared under her motel door, an unmarked envelope with surveillance photos of Grayson meeting Vincent Hargrove, private security magnate, former military contractor, a shadow with no official rank but plenty of power.
And the kicker?
He was tied to her suspension, the one who'd urged the DOJ to cool her down after the protests. She knew now, he was the hand behind the curtain. They drove through the night, no lights, no words, just the hum of the road and the weight of their mission.
Hargrove et sa hausse perché on a cliffside, overlooking the Gulf. Too slick for all money, too cold for new.
Camila approached alone, Marcus watching through a scope.
She rend the balance.
Hargrove answered, mid-60s, trim beard, smooth voice, exuding the calm of untouchable power. You came, he said, unsurprised. You had me tagged, she shot back, unflinching. He smiled.
À précaution.
You were drawing attention. You tried to silence me. I tried to save a country from tearing itself apart. Camilla stepped inside, the air thick with leather and lies. Hargrove poured a drink, offering her none. You think you've won, Agent Brooks, he said, his voice slick. But you don't get the game. You made noise, enemies, exposed a system built to outlast one woman with a microphone. Did she blink? Not once. I didn't come to argue. Then why are you here? She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, setting it on the table with a thud. The rest of it, she said.
Every fil, every conversation, your contractor, your off-book surveillance.
If anything happens to me, my team, if I vanish, if I'm discredited, if I'm hit, this goes public internationally immediately. Hargrove's smile vanished, his eyes narrowing.
You de burn it all down.
The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Then he nodded, voice low. This was never about you, Camilla. It was about the system holding. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. That's the difference between us, she said, her voice a quiet thunder.
You serve a système. I serve the truth.
She stepped into the night, the Gulf's wind hitting her face like a warning, but Camilla Brooks didn't stop. She was the storm, and the truth was her weapon. Outside, the Gulf's wind slammed into Camilla Brooks' face like a warning, sharp and biting, as if the world itself was trying to push her back. The sea below roared, a wild, untamed beast. But did she stop? Not for a second. She marched to the car, her steps resolute, climbed in, and uttered just two words, heavy with finality, "It's done." Marcus, her steadfast ally, didn't ask what she meant. Oh no, he knew better. He just fired up the engine, the hum of the car a quiet promise of the storm still to come. Can you feel the weight of that moment? The air crackled with the power of a woman who'd stared down the shadows and walked away unbroken. The next morning, Camilla did something unthinkable. She submitted her resignation. Was it shame? Retreat? Never. She did it to break free, to speak without the chains of bureaucracy holding her back. Her final report, unleashed through an independent watchdog agency, hit the country like a thunderbolt. It laid bare every detail of her crusade, from that brutal kick at the gas station to the arrests that shook the corrupt to their core, from the chilling surveillance to the sabotage meant to silence her, from the local rot in Benton County to the dark federal shadows pulling strings. She didn't name Vincent Hargrove. Did she need to? Not at all. Those who knew the game read between the lines, every word a coded dagger. The report sent shockwaves rippling across America. Can you imagine the uproar? Public hearings erupted in its wake, lawmakers scrambling to respond. Laws changed, some just for show, sure, but others? Real, tangible shifts in the fight for justice. But what mattered most? People were watching now, their eyes wide open, paying attention like never before. Camilla took to the stage, speaking at colleges, town halls, veteran events, civil rights rallies, her voice a beacon in the darkness. And every time she delivered the same powerful truth: justice doesn't begin with punishment, it begins with truth. Oh, how ugly that truth was, raw and unyielding, but it was out, shining like a lighthouse for all to see.
Did it change the world?
You bet it did. 1 year later, Camilla returned to that gas station, the very place where it all began. The pumps were new, gleaming under the sun, the gravel freshly paved, smoothing over the scars of that fateful day. No trace of the violence remained, except one. A small bronze plaque stood quietly by the lot's edge, its words etched in defiance: "Here stood a woman. She didn't fall." Camilla lingered there, alone, no press, no cameras. Just her and the weight of memory, the echo of that boot, the fire of everything that followed. Did she cry? Did she falter?
Not Camilla Brooks.
She stood tall, her heart steady, then turned, climbed back into her car, and drove away, not running, oh no, but charging toward whatever came next. Why? Because storms don't stop, they move, and Camilla was already surging forward, unstoppable. Here's something worth shouting from the rooftops, not just from Camilla's story, but for every one of us watching, listening, living. Justice isn't a single moment, it's a movement, a relentless tide. And where does it start?
In the quietest, most unexpected place. À Dusty Gas Station, à Lonely Road, a woman who refused to stay down.
What did Camilla teach us? Something so simple yet so powerful, you don't need to scream to raise the truth. You just need to stand in it, unwavering, even when the odds tower over you, when the powerful try to silence you, when the system snarls, stay in your lane. That's when it matters most to dig in, to hold your ground. Can you feel the fire in those words? Because integrity? It doesn't retire.
Courage.
It doesn't age. And truth, oh, truth has no expiration date. So wherever you are, whatever chapter of life you're writing, hear this loud and clear. You're never too old to take a stand, never too small to make a difference, never too late to be the spark that changes everything for the better. Camila didn't fall, did she? No way. And neither will you. Her story is a clarion call, a reminder that one woman, armed with nothing but her resolve and the truth, can shake the foundations of corruption and light the way for justice. Are you ready to stand with her? That night by the Gulf, as Camila walked away from Hargrove's cliffside fortress, the weight of her victory was palpable, but so was the cost. She'd faced down a man who thought he held the world in his hands, who believed his system was untouchable. But Camila? She was the storm that proved him wrong. Back in the car, the silence between her and Marcus was heavy, not with doubt, but with purpose. They both knew this wasn't the end. Oh no, it was a new beginning. The drive back was quiet, the road stretching out like a canvas for the battles yet to come. Did she second-guess herself? Not for a moment. Her heart was set, her path clear. When she resigned, it wasn't a surrender, it was a declaration of freedom. Free from the FBI's red tape, free to speak her truth without filters. That final report? It was her masterpiece, a meticulously crafted expose that didn't just tell a story, it demanded accountability. From the gas station assault to the arrests of Calkins, Riker and Grayson, from the chilling surveillance photos to the sabotage meant to break her, from the small-town corruption to the federal puppeteers, it was all there, laid bare for the world to see. Hargrove's name wasn't mentioned, but did it need to be? The insiders, the ones who knew the game, caught every coded hint, every carefully chosen word. The report didn't just make waves, it triggered a tsunami. How could it not? The hearings that followed were a spectacle, politicians posturing, activists demanding change, the public watching with bated breath. Some laws changed for optics, sure, but others cut deep, rewriting the rules to protect the vulnerable and hold the powerful accountable. But the real victory? The people awake at last, their eyes open to the rot that had festered too long. Camila became their voice, their champion, speaking at every platform she could find. College auditoriums packed with wide-eyed students, town halls buzzing with concerned citizens, veteran gatherings filled with nodding respect, civil rights rallies pulsing with righteous anger. Her message never wavered: justice starts with truth. And oh, how that truth burned, exposing the ugly underbelly of power. Did it make a difference? You bet it did. Every word she spoke planted seeds for change. Returning to that gas station a year later, Camila stood in the quiet, the memories flooding back like a tide. The new pumps gleamed, the repaved gravel crunched underfoot, but that plaque? It was a monument to her defiance, a testament to her unbreakable spirit. Here stood a woman. She didn't fall. Those words hit like a punch. Can you feel their power? She lingered, not in sorrow, but in strength, the weight of that boot, that fight, that victory settling into her bones. Then with a steady breath she turned, slid into her car, and drove off, not fleeing, but charging toward the next horizon. Storms don't rest, and neither did she. Camila Brooks was already moving, her heart set on whatever challenge lay ahead. And here's the lesson, the blazing truth we must carry forward, not just from Camila's story, but for every soul watching, listening, dreaming. Justice isn't a fleeting moment, it's a movement, a relentless push that starts in the humblest corners. A gas station, a dusty road, a woman who says, "Not today." What did Camila show us? You don't need to shout to wield the truth, you just need to stand unyielding, even when the odds loom large, when power tries to crush you, when the system demands you stay small. That's when you rise, when you hold your ground, when you become the storm. Can you hear the call? Integrity doesn't fade. Courage doesn't wither. And truth? It's eternal, a flame that never dies. So wherever you are, whatever fight you face, know this: you're never too old to stand tall, never too small to shift the world, never too late to spark change. Camila didn't fall. Oh no, she soared. And you? You won't fall either. Her story is a rallying cry, proof that one woman, fueled by truth and grit, can topple giants and light the path for others. Are you ready to walk it? Stand with Camila, hold fast to the truth, and let your own storm rage on. Camila Brooks' story is a blazing testament to the power of one woman's unyielding courage, and it hits me right in the gut. Her journey, from that gut-wrenching kick at a gas station to dismantling a corrupt system, ignites a fire in my soul. How can you not be moved by her defiance? She didn't just stand up after being knocked down. She became a storm, tearing through lies and exposing truths that powerful men thought they could bury. That's not just bravery, it's a revolution wrapped in resolve. What gets me most is her refusal to be silenced, even when they burned her car, trashed her room, and stripped her badge. Can you imagine the weight of that? Yet, she turned their attacks into fuel, proving that truth doesn't bend to fear. Her resignation wasn't a surrender. Oh no, it was a battle cry, freeing her to speak without chains. That final report, those speeches, that plaque reading, "Here stood a woman." She didn't fall. They're not just moments, they're monuments to integrity. I'm in awe of how she transformed pain into purpose, showing us that justice isn't a moment, but a movement. Camila's story screams that we're never too small to make a difference. It's a call to stand tall, to hold truth like a torch, no matter who tries to snuff it out. I feel her strength in my bones, urging me to fight for what's right, to never stay down. She's not just a hero, she's a reminder that we can all be the storm that changes everything. How can we not rise up and carry her fire forward?